mode.
Good afternoon. This is Heidi Sanborn, the Executive Director of the California Product Stewardship Council. We'd like to welcome all of you to our 5th Paint webinar. These are facilitated by the California Product Stewardship Council, sponsored by PaintCare, and hosted by our friend Bob Hollis and the Mobius Network. I want to thank my staff, Katie Young and Surah Hussain. Katie will be doing the technical troubleshooting, and Surah will be taking notes for us. And those Q&A notes will be posted on our website and on PaintCare's website after the webinar. We've had previously 4 webinars, and those Q&A were kind of rolled up into one document, which are also posted on our website, and we'll post these as well. Now, the goal today is to review the program, the first paint stewardship program that's permanent in the country, how it's rolling out, the legal requirements, the partnerships with retail and household hazardous waste and government, and we'll end with Q&A. But you're welcome to type your questions into the box at the top right, and depending on the question, I'll either ask it while the speakers are speaking to make sure it's clarification, especially we don't like to get too far ahead if people are lost and didn't understand what was said. But many of the questions will be asked at the end. And again, we'll capture the answers for those who'd like to reflect back on those. So now why are we doing this? Well, the target audience for this call is the local governments here in California that provide paint collection services, the transfer stations, landfills, and other non-retail collection sites as well. And we're doing this because we like to facilitate as a C3, now that's been around as a nonprofit for 5 years. Our purpose is really to do education on producer responsibility and facilitate information sharing that supports the producer responsibility programs so they work. Our board now is made up of 13 members. It includes 9 local governments and 4 for-profit companies, one of which is Lorraine Segala with Amazon Paint. And paint is our #1 priority as an organization because of the volume and cost to local governments. In fact, I've been working on paint with the National Dialogue and Allison Keene back in 2003 and Product Stewardship Institute. And then we also, as CPSC, worked with San Joaquin County on a large paint grant, which many of you remember. Marjane in San Francisco and the team that she has now is really active on that program as well. So this has been a long-standing passion of ours to try and get paint stewardship to work in the state, and that's why we're happy to host this call. So we're going to take questions at the end mostly, but you again can type them into the box at any time, and I will read them to the speakers. And again, the Q&A will be posted. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Marjane Zaparfar with PaintCare, but we also have on the line Allison Keene, Paul Frazina, and Caitlin, all with PaintCare. And so I'll go ahead and turn it over to Marjane now to go through her presentation. Marjane?
Oh, get off mute. Thanks, Heidi. Hello to everyone out there. I think we've got a pretty good group. I did ask Heidi to take a quick look at the list, and it looks like the majority of the folks who are on the phone have definitely heard more than one presentation from PaintCare at some point, or are pretty familiar with the concept of product stewardship and the PaintCare program. So I will go pretty quickly through the starting slides that address who PaintCare is and how this program came about. And then I will talk about the retail recruitment and where we're at with our retail partnerships. I know there's a lot of interest as to how we've built the list that we have and who can participate in the program. And then Allison will give an update on where we are with the municipal contracts and the municipal partnerships. And then Paul will close it out with talking about our outreach efforts and the media that we've received so far and what we plan to do over the next year and in future years to make sure we get the word out about the PaintCare program. So you can see in front of you, there's just a brief overview of what we're going to cover. So I'll go through the first 10 slides pretty quickly. So just a reminder for everyone who PaintCare is. We're a 501c3 organization. We were established by the paint industry to essentially implement paint stewardship programs on their behalf in states that pass the laws like the one in California. We are governed by a board of architectural paint manufacturers. So many of the paint companies that you'll see either at retail or being sold in the products, they're on our board. They're the ones that have developed this program and guide us on the implementation. And we were established by actually the American Coatings Association, which is a trade organization that represents paint manufacturers and other professionals in the painting field. So we are an extension of the American Coatings Association, and we represent paint manufacturers. I'm going to probably skip right through the slide, the whole idea of why paint. I think everybody out there knows paint is the largest component, the largest item by volume that comes into household hazardous waste programs. And so for many years, there's been a desire to get industry and others involved in the life cycle of paint to take a role in managing it at its end of life. So that's how we're here today through a model state legislation that was developed with state and industry input and local government input. And that law has now been passed in Oregon, California, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Oregon started 2 years ago. California, as hopefully you all know, began 2 weeks ago on October 19th. Connecticut is scheduled to begin next year, and Rhode Island the following year. Though since Connecticut and Rhode Island are right next to each other, we'll try and do both states together. Just 6 little points on the key elements of the model law. It does require participation by all manufacturers, distributors, and retailers, and they all have different roles in the process. And I think I'll just say if you want to learn more about that, please refer to our website. I think somebody needs to go on mute.
Maybe
Can everyone
mute everybody except the speaker? Thank you.
Again, as you know, the program is industry designed and operated, and that's who PaintCare is doing that on behalf of the industry. It does allow for us to add a fee to the purchase price of paint, so that's how we have a sustainable financing mechanism to run the program, to have funding to run the program. It requires that we create infrastructure. So our goal is to partner with all kinds of parties that are good locations for the public, convenient for the public to bring back their paint. So that would include retail, the existing household hazardous waste programs, and other places like waste transfer stations, possibly landfills, recycling centers, other places that make sense for the public. Of course, it requires a significant public outreach and education effort so that we get the word out about recycling paint and about buying the right amount of paint. And then with all that paint that we're going to collect, obviously we need to be doing the right thing with it, so the law does require that we manage it and run the entire program in an environmentally responsible way. So now I'm going to jump right into California and where we're at. The California program, again, it launched on October 19th. And a lot of work goes on behind the scenes with recruiting manufacturers, or rather identifying manufacturers that sell paint into California and informing them, making sure they know what their role in the program is, doing the same with distributors, doing the same with retailers, because everybody has some responsibility. Hopefully you all think we did a good job of reaching out to you as household hazardous waste programs and informing you about the program and your role in it. So a lot of work, but I think visibly what everyone sees on day one or for the program is where are these collection sites? What kind of outreach are you doing, and where are the collection sites? And so we feel really good about what we were able to start with on day one. Our goal, based on some GIS modeling that we've done, and you can read more about it in the program plan, is approximately 750 collection locations in the appropriate places, located strategically so that the majority of the state can access a site within 15 miles. So we're not there yet. As we said in the program plan, it'll take us maybe a couple of years, hopefully sooner, but we gave ourselves a couple of years to make sure we get out into all those underserved areas or lower served areas. It'll take time to identify locations and build those partnerships. But we managed to get more than 352 locations, or 352 locations to be exact, to be ready on day one, and that list continues to grow by the day. So you can see it's both a combination of chain and independent and sort of mom and pop stores. But I know there has been some questions about why does it appear to be mostly chain stores? You know, why mostly the Dunn Edwards and the Kelly Moore, Sherwin-Williams, Vistas, and so on. So the real reason for that is because there are some barriers to getting the other stores in, and I'll cover those a couple slides from now. But certainly the program is open to all retailers. We absolutely want to have a mix of retail types because we know different consumers go into different types of stores. So there was no preferential treatment for a chain store. There was no preferential treatment for a member of the American Coatings Association. Vista is a Southern California-based both manufacturer and retailer. I believe they have 40-something stores in our program. They're not a member of the American Coatings Association. So we did put the word out to every single retailer, gave everybody an equal opportunity to be in the program. These are the folks that responded early on. And we actually feel very lucky that some of these chain stores want to have a role in this because it made certainly the training for us a lot simpler. In some cases, they gathered a group of 40 store owner or store managers in one location, and we could do the training for all of them at the same time. So I think that's how we were able to have a successful launch. But again, we continue to grow the program, look for places that we need additional sites. I know Daria has been on the phone proactively calling retailers in specific areas and saying, we need you, and we think you'd be a great partner, and here's why it's good for you. So rest assured, we're still working, and we will for a long time until we have the whole state covered. In terms of how we reached out to the retailers, I know there's also been some interest about how we did that. We've done several rounds of mailers beginning back in, I believe it was June, as soon as we knew the program plan was going to be or is approved. I can't remember the exact timeline, but these are updated versions of different fact sheets that we've sent out over time. We started out with a general fact sheet about what is this program, what is your role, what is the opportunity. Then the second mailer had a specific drop-off, a sign-up sheet form, as well as a fact sheet about what it means to be a drop-off site, and that's the fact sheet you see in the center. We also had a lot of questions about the assessment fee and how it impacts retailers, so we developed a special fact sheet just on that subject. So we welcome and encourage anyone to pull these materials from our website, and if they find that there's retailers who could use some more information, hand this to them or send them to our website to get it or have them call us. But we've done our best to get this out to all retailers in California. I think we've identified about 2,800 of them that sell paint, and that includes lumber yards and both paint and hardware and all the different types of stores that might be selling paint. So we continue to do outreach. We're then following these, we did a round of outreach where we distributed outreach materials to all of the sites, and Paul will talk about that. And now we're doing another notification. We've also held 5 webinars. It's funny, we're having our 5th HHW webinar today. Just this morning, Caitlin hosted our 5th retail webinar. So something where we go through every step of what their responsibilities and their opportunities for the program are. And we have a few more of those scheduled, and we'll continue to hold them as long as we have an audience. So just some information about how we got the word out to retailers. Really quickly, if anyone's interested to know, as part of our training to the retailers, there's a binder, there's a training binder. It covers all of their responsibilities. It provides them all the tools that they need. They have to use a CSQG waiver form. They have to certify that they've done a training. So a lot of you who've had some experience with doing any type of collection at retail or any kind of HHW collection, really, you know that there's some basic requirements and some hazardous waste knowledge that you have to have and information about spill cleanup and things like that. So all of that is covered in this binder that we offer the retail sites, or not that we offer, that we are part of the training and that we leave behind with them. This is also what we hope that they will show CalRecycle, or should a Coupa inspector come in. The goal of this binder is to cover everything that they need to know and to have every staff member read through it if they couldn't participate in our training. And so it's all in one. It's a place where they would keep their bill of ladings and so on. So that's our goal, make it easy, make sure they know they can access the information all in one location. And similar to what we offer HHW programs, we will come in and do a training. We provide the collection containers. We pay for transportation, recycling and proper disposal. We'll provide a store poster and other consumer education materials. All stores have received the consumer education materials. You don't have to be a drop-off site to receive that. And of course, we promote the site. That's the real incentive for them to be a part of the program. So just to give you a little taste of what we offer the retailers. I'll just share a few, some information about what the barriers so far have been, and I don't consider them, any of them, significant because we've just started the program. We've got time to overcome these barriers, but what we've identified early on is a lack of awareness. So that means you can do 2-3 mailers, you can do a lot of outreach in the mail. They may still not get the word. They may still not quite understand what the PaintCare program is. So we've seen a little bit of that, and now we're proactively, again, calling to the stores that either we think would be a good location because of an area that's underserved, or because we hear from somebody else, maybe the store doesn't seem to quite understand what the program is. So, and we'll continue to do outreach. That's just, I think, a reality of a new program. It's going to take time for all the information to sink in. I think we can overcome that with all the efforts that the PaintCare team is making. Another reason, when we actually talk to collection sites or they contact us and they say we'd like to be in the program, or they call us to talk about it, there's been some concerns about illegal dumping, some dumping at nighttime. And So what we do is we share with them the Oregon experience. The Oregon experience is that nobody has dropped out as a result of this. Yes, it is possible that you will get a little more dumping or a little more material left at your door as a result of it. But typically the materials that are left in front of a paint store are paint materials, and if they have their label on them and if stuff doesn't look sketchy, they can put them into the program boxes. In addition, probably all along, the things they've been receiving are mostly program materials. So in the end, they might actually be better off being a collection site and now having a way to manage some of those things that are left at their door. So what we do is we share with them the Oregon experience. We encourage them to call their colleagues in Oregon if they want to hear directly from another retail store. But that seems, I think, again, with education, we can overcome that barrier. And then the third one that's unique to California, we didn't have this in Oregon. We are not going to have this in Connecticut, is this requirement for a hazardous materials business plan. So we've learned that a lot of the independent stores, the ACEs, the True Values, the independents tend not to have it. In cases where the larger chain stores actually maybe don't even need it, because as all of you on the phone know, this is a CUPA by CUPA, jurisdiction by jurisdiction decision. Turns out that in a lot of the chain stores, even where they don't need it, because they have sort of a corporate policy of cover all your bases, do everything for all the same stores, they have them anyway, so they just tend to be better off. And that's why they were ready to sign up quicker, because they already had this the HWMP or HMDP. So now what we're trying to do is, number one, get an answer from the CUPAs, because there's more CUPAs than there are counties. In some counties, there are several different CUPAs. So first, our goal is to get a straight answer from the CUPAs. This is a new program for them as well. My observation is that there's been some hesitation to give a direct answer because they're waiting to see what the other counties decide. Should we require it? We know this is a good thing for the community. We know this is an environmental program. We don't want to do anything to discourage stores from participating in it, but if somebody else is going to require it, should we require it too? So I think there's a little bit of wait and see. Now we're beginning to sort of get those answers one by one. San Luis Obispo County and Ventura County have both said we are not going to require it. We think this is, it's hazardous materials. This is stuff that's already in the store being sold. The volume is not significant. You've got a good plan in place, so we're not concerned. You don't need to have that. But again, it's just taking some time for us to get those answers in all the different jurisdictions, and then for the sites that don't have them, to help them understand what it is, help them understand how to sign up. But as you know, it takes time. This is taking time. So that's the reason, that's the primary reason why we don't have some of those smaller stores in the program at this time. Another reason why we don't have as many stores as have submitted an interest form to us, we use a similar method to recruit them as we did with HHWs with an interest form, is because for the start of the program, we're using cardboard boxes. We're using the Gaylord boxes because our service providers or transportation companies wanted to have a better sense of just how many boxes are they going to need to purchase so that they get the best price for them. How many of the reusable boxes are they going to need to purchase? So because we're starting with the cardboard boxes for a few months, sites that only have outdoor storage, we can't sign them up right now. We've got them on our wait list. They understand the situation. They know as soon as we switch to the reusables, we will bring them into the program. So we have a list of additional stores. Not everybody is in the program yet. So that's sort of my summary of where we're at with retail. Again, all I can say is we keep working every day towards improving that program. If anybody wants to get specific information about their county, they are welcome to, or their area, their jurisdiction, whatever that might be, they're welcome to call us. But I want to remind everyone that for this program, there really are no county borders, and that's a real positive. Coming from an HW program, I know that we have to turn people away at our HW programs when they're not paying garbage rates or taxes in your jurisdiction. I think the beauty of this program is there are no borders. If there's a site closer to you in the next county, that's great. You can go there. There is no checking your license. They're not asking questions about that. Everybody across the state is funding this program, and so you can use any location anywhere. But if you are interested in getting more information about your sort of local area, again, doesn't have to be within your county, you can certainly contact us, or you can use the tool on our website. There's a map tool in the far left corner of the California page where you can actually look at the specific locations. Paul has also put a PDF version of that list, which is continually updated below that map. In general, we don't want to print lists because they get outdated quickly, but because we're receiving so many requests for a list and it's easier to take that information and maybe put it on your website in a list form than from a map form, we're going to keep that list up there for some time until we're able to have a map actually generate the list for you. So it's also available if you just want to go and cut and paste your section. Otherwise, you can contact Paul or Caitlin or Daria, and they can send you sort of the geographically what sites are close to your territory. So I will stop talking now and turn it over to Allison to give everyone an update on where we're at with the municipal contracts.
Allison?
Did Bob mute everyone?
She is muted, and I can't unmute her, so she needs to unmute herself, I think. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so I think that just worked. I'm unmuted.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, great. On the municipal contracts, it's a little slower going, but I think we've actually just in the last couple of days made some significant progress. I'm happy to report. But those folks that are completed or soon to be complete with San Bernardino's board meeting were the folks that really took our contract and individually negotiated agreements. We have about 8 also in progress on an individual negotiation basis, some of which I think were part of the group contract process, but now are ready to talk about individual terms, and then some of which just took a little bit more time until they were ready as far as their own legal review or insurance review or operational review with respect to Margin A and payment, et cetera. So I've actually been a little slack. We had our own board meetings and I was on vacation, and then we had Sandy, so I actually will probably get those out in the next, within easily the next week. I'm pretty good about turning them around fairly quickly if you get them to me. The group contract has taken a little bit longer. I've been working with Diane McElrin, who's been a wonderful partner to work with. She's one of the counsel for Sacramento. And we've made significant progress, but like I said, it is a little slower going. Diane and I talk. We talk about language, trying to figure out and negotiate language that works for the counties and the cities, but also works for PaintCare and frankly follows along the lines of our transportation processing contracts, which are already in place. We were really close, I think, to having the contract ready to just go back out, and Diane's been wonderful. Again, every time we talk, she's got to go back out to the big group and get consensus and come back and take input. So it's just taking a little bit longer than the individual negotiations. But we were pretty close, and then Santa Barbara County brought up a very good point with regard to insurance and indemnification and the lack of contractual privity that folks will now have with the transportation provider for some of these products versus having the transportation provider, even though it's the same one, having a contractual privity for all the products, meaning now the privity is between PaintCare and our transporters for those paint portion of the HHW, and so there may be an issue where something happens and there's a loophole, basically. We've identified a potential loophole for insurance companies to come in and say, nope, that's not ours, that's not ours, that's not ours. So she sent Marie LaSalle in Santa Barbara has been working with us to try to figure out a solution to that. I've actually worked with my outside insurance counsel, and we think we've come up with some language that will work and give everybody what we need and make sure that an insurance company can't get out of paying if there in fact is an issue. Marie is actually on vacation, but continues to work with me this week on that, and I hope by the end of this week, if not early next week, we'll have that settled. So that's a long way of saying this is not easy. This is definitely taking some time. We're experiencing some issues we didn't experience in Oregon, but we're cordially working through them, and I think both Marie LaSalle and Diane McElrin deserve very high praise for taking this on. And I hope that we will be able to get back to the 30-plus people in this multi-county, multi-city contract process very quickly with a good starting point, if not a final point for most of the individual negotiations that will continue to be needed. each county or municipal government or city, whoever it may be, will still need to have the risk manager and their counsel look at it, particularly on the insurance and indemnification and things that are very specific to your HHW programs. But we hope to have a pretty good working draft to you in order for you to do that, shortly in the next couple weeks.
That's great. Good news, Allison. I'm sure everybody's glad to hear that. Is there anybody? I don't see any questions on that, but we should probably hold those to the end anyway. So did you want to move on? Was there anything else?
I'll move on if I was also waiting to see if you wanted to ask any questions. But so we'll jump into the communications, outreach and education. And now, Paul, your turn.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go through the public outreach materials that we've been developing or using since the program started, and some of them from before it started. This first is our consumer brochure. This is the brochure that we call the trifold, and the mini card, which came out of the stakeholder meeting we had with retailers back in June. The general brochures was distributed to all retailers, 2,800 of them in California, as well as the mini card with starter packets. The general brochure just covers the basics of the program, but the mini card was a suggestion that the retailers had for their customers if they're talking to a customer and they just want to hand them something where they can refer them to our website or get a phone number without having to take the entire brochure. So this has been available also to household hazardous waste programs. We've received a few requests already from household hazardous waste facilities, and we'll be happy to provide these as well. They were originally designed for retailers, but after a while we realized anybody can use them. They're rather general. And they explain the funding, who is PaintCare, and how to find the drop-off sites. Marjorie, you want to go to the next slide? Thanks. The next slide is we have two posters. The one on the right is the poster that is being distributed to the retailers to put up in the store. The main focus of this one is to explain the assessment fee and also the basics of the program. The one on the left is the one that they would put on their window or their door, and it's been provided to only the drop-off sites, obviously, since it says recycle your paint here. We just came out with a new version that's a little smaller because we think some stores will want even smaller posters. These are 8.5 by 11, and then there's one about a half sheet in size.
Paul, this is Heidi. Jeffrey Smedberg had asked a question related to this. He says he's gone to a couple of his retailers, and one had a window sign about the cost per gallon assessment, and neither had a window sign announcing that they were a take-back site. Now, there is one about being a take-back site, I believe, and it's in the back of the binder that you give them. Is that correct?
They were all given a poster, the one on the left that's on the screen right now, if they're a drop-off site. If they're not a drop-off site, they're just a retailer, they got only the one on the right, which is the explanation of the assessment fee. We didn't anticipate people would put that in the front window or the door, but I went into one store in San Francisco and they had about 20 of them plastered all over the place, from the cash register to the paint department. So they had just photocopied it and put more copies up. But we did provide the one on the right to every retailer and the one on the left just to the drop-off sites, and we just had more printed that are like they cling to the window from the inside. So we'll be distributing those as well. And some stores have more than one entrance, so they want more than one sign.
But it did come to them, because I remember.
Yeah. If I could just add this, Marjorie, of course we asked them to put the signs up, and yeah, technically we say that's a requirement of being in the program. But we also have heard some feedback about stores wanting to hold off on putting them up until they kind of get comfortable with the program. They want to make sure they're not getting overwhelmed. So when we start doing our site visits, we will offer another poster if they don't have it. They'll just be a part of maintaining the sites. I know from my experience this happens. Signs come down, signs never get put up, and so that's just something on a continual basis we will be offering.
And if local governments go out to a retailer and they're missing signs or didn't have something and they asked them if they had them and they said no, that's something that they could maybe email Paul?
Sure, just let me know and we'll send one out right away.
Yeah, okay, very good.
But let's be clear, they don't have to use any of these materials, so they're
Right.
not, out of compliance if they're not. But certainly if they're interested and for some reason they don't know where theirs is, yes, we're absolutely happy to give them whatever they want. And all of these things are available on our website as well. We intentionally did the first half in 8.5 by 11, so they could be printed in the event that we didn't reach every store. But now, as Paul was saying, now we've developed a window cling version. We're doing a larger version of the Recycle Your Paint Here poster. So that was the starting information, the starting poster, and now different sizes and types will be offered.
Okay, because Jeffrey's saying that the signs were in the signs in the binders sent to the drop-off sites, because the quote-unquote sign I saw at the Frazee store was really the size of a piece of paper, and it was just laminated, and in the back slip of the binder, and they didn't realize it was there. So if they're in the store, they may ask to see the binder and see if it's in the back, if they don't know they have, because they might not know they have it.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody should be asking to see the binder, because that's their.
Well, or they could go look in their
binder. They
binder.
could say, hey, do you know you have a binder? And it might be in your binder, exactly. But
yeah, because
chances
there's
are
so many
in
people
the
in
next
the
6
store.
months, chances are in the next 6 months, if there's no poster in the window, it probably came out of the binder, got put in the window, and then came down when the window got cleaned and never made it back up. That's my experience from doing many retail programs for many years.
Yeah, window cleaners are notorious for not putting stuff back. Okay, good. Sorry, those were just the questions on the posters. And Larry asked whether they are all provided posters that are weatherproof for placement outside, and the one I saw was laminated. It was put inside, but you could see it through the window, and it was.
They're not intended to be on the outside. The window clings are designed to be put on the inside of the window.
Right.
They face out. So if you put them on the outside, they would be a piece of white paper. You wouldn't read anything. Okay, next one. So one of the services PaintCare is offering to retailers is that we will help to co-brand materials with them. So here are 2 examples. We took the same trifold brochure and mini card and put the True Value logo on it and worked with them. A lot of the retailers like this approach because it gives them some ownership of the program, they feel that their customers and their staff are more willing to use the materials. Home Depot did a poster. They didn't do another version of the brochure, but they wanted a poster to put up in their stores. So we offer this we did have one retailer also who started but would not list on the poster that we were designing for them that other stores would accept their paint. So we do have some basic rules that they have to follow in order for us to co-brand materials and use our logo. And the main thing is that if you're a store that is not a drop-off site and you want us to help you develop materials, you still have to mention that there are drop-off sites in other stores. Let me go to the next one. So we've already started to get reorders, and this is a whole process going on behind the scenes. We initially sent 50 brochures to most stores. There are a few of the larger chains that requested 150 of everything, brochures and mini cards. And as they run out, they simply fill out this form and send it in, or they can just send us an email, and we'll get those out to them within a few days. We did discover that even though we had done a pretty complete list of all the retailers in California, we missed a few. So we're discovering more stores in the state because they order materials, and then I look in our database and find we never had them on record in the first place. So since the program started, we've probably added about 20 retailers that we didn't know about.
Well, we do have one question. Rob was asking, why is Osh missing from the list of retailers?
Of which
I'm assuming
list?
that was from the slide that was showing which ones were.
Let me back up, but let me also explain the situation with Osh. Oh, they're not missing. They're there.
That's
right.
I believe those are their stores in San Luis Obispo, aren't they?
Right. Exactly. So Osh has stores all around California, and and Rob and I talked about this. They were initially interested in having lots of stores in the program, and then they stepped back and said, well, you know what, we'll start with, I do have the letters backwards, so it should be OHS. Then they stepped back and said, we'd like to start in San Luis Obispo where we have to do this anyway and kind of get comfortable with it, and then we'll decide after if we want to expand beyond that one store. So So unless something has changed since then that Caitlin can provide an update on, I believe they just have that one store for now. Likewise, Home Depot and Walmart also intend on partnering with us, but again, only in San Luis Obispo County where they already have to do it. But our hope is that if they do partner with us and they're comfortable with the program, and now they're not doing it because they have to, but because, well, they still have to there, but at any rate, they're doing it in partnership with us and they're not paying anymore. Maybe in the future, as a result of that, they'll grow the program to their other stores. Lowe's, we haven't heard back from yet. We've made the same offer to them because they're also in San Luis Obispo, and we just haven't received a response yet. But so Orchard, Osh, Home Depot, and Walmart, all in time, once they get their contract back to us in the next few weeks, will be up on the list in San Luis Obispo.
And I know most people know this, but they were able, in San Luis Obispo, I was able to get an ordinance passed mandating retail take back. If you sell paint, you have to take it back, along with lamps, batteries, and sharps. So that actually may benefit all of us, because if those big retailers then find it's not as big a problem as they might have thought, hopefully, as you said, they'll just willingly do it, because I know that other counties are looking at that because they really want the big stores to help take back. Okay.
Marjane, can you go back? Can you go back one slide?
Sure.
I just wanted to mention that for the household hazardous waste world, if you would like materials, use this same form, and we will be happy to send you copies of the brochures if you're interested in them. Okay, that's all.
Okay, Larry's mentioning, speaking of that, Larry Sweetser is asking that the HHW programs do not typically have an inside location for a public sign, so that he really could use some weatherproof signs that could be on the outside.
Okay, we'll make a note of that, and I'll call Larry and see what he needs.
Great, thanks.
Next slide. Okay, so we have had quite an effort to reach out to trade painters, and we've discovered that the best way to reach them is through the actual retailers and through their billing system. This was something that the retailers requested back in our stakeholder meeting in June. So even though we have a fact sheet that we make available on our website to trade painters, we think we're probably reaching them better through their bills or through the fact sheet being handed out in the store. So these are available and also being translated into Spanish, Korean, and Chinese, along with some of our other materials. Depending on where you are in the state, we found in Los Angeles in particular, there's a huge Korean painting population, and San Francisco tends to be more Chinese and Spanish. So we're making those materials available in other languages. If you are in an area where you want to recommend yet another language, please let me know and we'll have it translated also.
I'll also add before I switch to the next slide for you, Paul, that this fact sheet was also sent out to contractors in advance of the program, a few months before the program began. But we're learning that any list of contractors gets outdated pretty quickly because there's a lot of one-man painting operations. And so one, it's hard to reach everyone, and also the list tends to get outdated pretty quickly, and that's why this bill insert seems to be a better way to reach them directly through their paint supplier.
And another issue with this, and was the main reason that the paint retailers asked for it, was they didn't want their customers to get angry or caught off guard with the assessment fee after having bid on a job that was going to start after October 19th. So that was why we got it out a few weeks or months before the program even started. Okay, the next one is newspapers. These are our two newspaper ads that are currently running. They're running all over the state in about 65 newspapers right now. We have two different ads, and they're alternating so that one is kind of more addressed towards painting contractors, one's slightly skewed towards homeowners. And we also have gotten some comments from the household hazardous waste community with suggestions about papers. So if you see it in your newspaper or you don't see it in your newspaper, we would like to hear whether you think that's an appropriate paper or we should switch to some other paper in your community. So this ad was running mostly on Fridays once a week for 5 weeks, and it started on October 19th. It's a general ad that does not list actual drop-off sites because we ordered all of the ads before the program even started and before we knew where all the sites were. And our focus really is on introducing the program and letting people know that the additional assessment fee is going to be included on new paint purchases, and it points them to our website or a phone number to call to find their nearest drop-off site. And our phones have been ringing off the hook.
Paul, this is Heidi. Larry asked a question related to this. He's saying, please, more of a comment, I guess, please limit local advertising until a local option is available. One local paper had a quarter-page ad to check the website or call for the nearest location, and the nearest location was nearly an hour away from the population center and in the next county. That local paper is not distributed in the county with the PaintCare location.
Well, Larry can call me about that specific instance, but we still need to run ads throughout the state, partly because we need to educate people that they're paying more for their paint, and from everything we've heard in both Oregon and California at the state level, it's really important for us to inform people about the assessment fee. So we're not going to be changing our ads for this campaign, and we hope to customize them in the spring series to include the drop-off sites.
Okay, because I think there was another question related to that.
And the other issue related to that is just, at least they will. Well, we also want to inform people that they can find a drop-off site. It might not be as convenient as everybody wishes it to be, but they can use any drop-off site that they find, not just the ones in their county.
I'll just add to what Paul is saying that I cannot stress enough the feedback that we've received both in California and in Oregon about the importance of putting information out about the fee. So retailers want us to put that information out so they're not the first ones that have to explain it when a customer comes in and sees a price increase. And that's why these ads are meant to sort of be all in one and talk about a new program, talk about the fee, and then also talk about the opportunity of a recycling location. So that's why they will continue to run everywhere, whether, as Paul said, the site is as close as the local folks would like it to be or not.
And also, I'd like to mention that when we were working with our PR firm, and they originally gave us the original list of which newspapers they recommended, they were really more concentrating on the urban areas and had not planned or proposed to put any in the rural areas. And we specifically made it clear to them that we needed the entire state covered, even if it meant there were fewer people going to read it in the entire state. We had to cover as many geographical regions and not necessarily focus on reaching the greatest number of people, because we didn't think that would be fair to all parts of the state.
We also had a comment about a couple of the retailers apparently are claiming that they're at capacity max and they're rejecting customers. And especially for the jurisdictions, and there's several here that commented about they haven't gotten agreement yet, so when they're getting redirected, they're still having to pay for the paint. Is that something they should let you know directly if there's a store that's doing that?
Yeah, I think for those of you that are on the HHWIE, you saw that Rod Miller posted a similar comment about a site that has stopped collecting paint because they were told they're not getting a collection for 6 weeks. So we have no idea where they got that information. Our service providers are committed through the contract of picking up, as soon as they can, but within a week in urban areas and within 2 weeks in rural areas. But I think most of the folks on the phone have been part of starting a new program, and you know that it takes time for everyone to figure it out, and there's going to be some of these hiccups along the way. So none of this surprises me. I've been through this before in San Francisco with other retail programs. We train 5 people in the store. The one guy that wasn't there that day is the one that ends up needing to make a phone call and doesn't know where to call. So these are just the things that take time to overcome with any new program. But yes, please, if you know of a site that for whatever reason doesn't remember where their binder is and can't remember where to call to get a pickup, send them our way. We don't want them stuck with that paint. We want to keep them happy, so we want to get the service providers out there as soon as possible. So again, I think this is normal. This comes with a new program, and it doesn't mean that we want it to happen, but just be patient with us and provide that information directly to us. It doesn't help it if you're posting in a forum that we're not necessarily having access to or seeing quickly. We want to keep the stores happy, and I'm sure you do as well, so that you have the service in your community.
Great, thanks.
So this the last thing I wanted to say about the newspaper is that in the spring the ads will be different. We'll be reevaluating which newspapers to run things in, and in some instances, such as Los Angeles, we'll be breaking it out into more papers. For example, in Los Angeles, we just ran an ad in the LA Times, thinking that covers the entire city. But starting in the spring campaign, we'll be running it in about 9 different newspapers, like the Long Beach paper, the Santa Monica paper, or whatever that's kind of designed more along the lines of a district within Los Angeles, so then it can list the sites that are nearby. Okay, the next is radio. So we're going to try to play our radio ad, but as a backup, we have the script written. Marjorie, do you want to click the button and see if it works?
Oh, I didn't even know that it was set up to do that.
Try the 30-second one. If we could only do one, do the 30-second one.
Bob, anything I can do differently to make it work?
No, this is Bob. We're doing a PDF version, so it's not going to function the same way as an embedded PowerPoint audio.
Oh, I thought I had the PowerPoint version up.
I thought you had a PDF. I may be mistaken.
Yeah, it was sent as a PDF.
Oh, okay. It's the PowerPoint.
But I did not see audio files attached to that when it came in, so they might not be available. But Paul,
you can act it out.
If you have the audio, you could play it on your computer and just put your phone near your speaker, and we should hear it as clear as we hear your voice.
Okay, here goes.
Hey, what's our plan for that old paint in the garage? I want to organize that space.
I heard that we can recycle it.
There's some place that takes it back?
Yeah, actually, there's a new program.
Did you know that you can recycle your paint? A small fee added to the price of new paint funds paint drop-off sites throughout California. To find a site or learn more, visit paintcare.org. Buy right, use it up, recycle the rest with PaintCare.
Did that work?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, we could hear it fine.
Okay, great. So and then that's our 30-second version, and then there's also a 15-second version, which I will not play. So that the radio ads are going kind of along the same lines as the newspaper ads. There are 38 radio stations scattered around the state, and as with the newspaper ads, we welcome any feedback about better radio stations. And if anybody really wants to know the list of radio stations and newspapers, I'll be happy to talk to them. They can call me on the phone. That's that. Next one is online. And all I have here is that the online ads are running. I asked our PR firm if they could point me to a website where I could actually be guaranteed that I would see one. And the answer is you can't, because it's all randomly generated through media statistics that I don't frankly understand that well. But they said they are running now, and there are 3 different sizes. These are 2 sizes, and when you're on a site that is running the banner ad, the three on the top that are next to each other are like a little animation, and the bottom 2 are another animation, and then there's a 3rd version. And that concludes outreach.
Great.
Well, do you want to say anything about this press release or press attention that we've gotten, or you being on television in Los Angeles?
Yes, I was in Los Angeles and had a wonderful experience Sunday morning. If anybody wants to see it, send me an email and I'll give you the link. But we've put out a press release the week before the program started. It's generated lots of coverage in the newspaper. I've done a radio story. Marjorie's done a radio story, or more than one, and we have a few more coming up. But you'll see articles in the newspaper as a result of the press release. So I thought it was pretty good. we don't want to take credit for all the press we've been getting, because we'd like to acknowledge that other people have generated and published press releases, including CPSC and Gal Recycle, and I think somebody else. So we can tell Kelly Moore put out a press release as well. So everybody is interested in spreading the word.
And we have to thank Heidi. She tried twice to help us with a news story in Sacramento. 5 a.m. 2 times came with her cans of paint, and Caitlin and Daria as well. And we got stood up by the Fox News channel twice. First time because of the weather, and the last time because of the Giants. So,
they clearly don't understand the importance of this paint program. Hopefully they'll get it.
Right. So,
well,
so there's everybody's contact information on the screen. But yeah, now we've got plenty of time for Q&A. So.
Okay. Well, one of the questions that came in while we were talking about the business plans was from Carrie Ullman, who asked, do counties also need to have a hazardous materials business plan?
Well, if it's a county household hazardous waste facility, my assumption is that you already have one, because that is required. If you are going to collect it at a non-HHW site, so if it's at a public works yard or a recycling center or some other type of situation, you're in the same boat as a retailer. It's depending on what your CUPA says. And my guess is that if they're going to require it from a retailer that didn't previously need it, even though that retailer previously sold these materials, then you're probably going to need it for those locations as well.
So if it's at a public works yard, they have to talk to their CUPA?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. And let's see. We talked about the posters being weatherproof. Several, even local governments, said they need that. Were signs that were in the binders sent to all drop-off sites? Because some of them just still said that they hadn't seen them, the posters.
They were provided with the training materials, or if they weren't, they were mailed one later.
Okay. So either they got it with the training materials or were sent one. So if they still don't have one, they need to ask for one.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
And just to be clear, the posters that we have right now are actually weatherproof because they are laminated. So if should a local government, when they come on board as a PaintCare partner, want what we already have, that it's already ready to be put outside, that's not a problem. But I suppose they could be more weatherproof than what I've seen. I don't know.
Okay. And I think we answered Nicole's question about Home Depots. They're not all in the program right now, just in San Luis Obispo where they're mandated, and the hope is that they will willingly start once they realize it's not that difficult.
And they're not totally on board yet. They're getting their contract back to us, but we've been corresponding back and forth, so pretty soon. Okay.
And then Marcy is asking, is the reorder form in the binder and online?
Yeah, everything that you've seen is online, plus a whole lot more. In fact, I think I put the web page up so we could look at it. Let's see, PaintCare. So is it still? There we go. Here's our website, and this is going to get reformatted. We know there's a ton of information here, and happy to have that criticism because I put a ton of this text up here. But until we get it reformatted by audience, right now we have it by state. You're just going to have to kind of scroll through it. But we did try to put these quick links up here so you can go to the different sections. So if you go to information, I should say right now it's under the retailer section. It's not under the HHW section. But you can find that reorder form. Here's the 3 responsibilities for retailers. Here's what they need to be a paint drop-off site. Here's the materials. And so here what says point of sale, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor on the screen. But right in the middle of the page is the point of sale materials. And there is the order form. I won't bother to click on it because Paul's already shown it to you, but that's where you would access it.
Perfect. And we can't see your cursor.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. And Rob Darcy is asking that we already have a CESQG inventory form that is signed by the CESQG. Is that adequate instead of the log that you have created?
Yeah, so that's something you'll work through with Allison. There are other counties that have either already joined us or are in the negotiation process that have made the same request. And so, yeah, we don't think it'll be a problem. You might have to make a small change to it, but again, you'll just work through that county by county. That would apply to both the reuse form, So if you're doing direct reuse, putting the cans out in a swap shop type of a situation, or you're doing any reprocessing on site where you repackage the paint and give it back out, you'll also need to use that reuse form, the reuse waiver that you're already required if you're having a swap shop type of program. So those two forms, if you have your own, just work with Allison to see if yours are good enough or if you need to make any changes or if you, yeah, we'll make it work.
Okay, great. Let's see. Now, Ken, he asked a question earlier, but not sure if it went through. Well, I think we asked and answered it, Ken, regarding the situation where the local take-back sites are telling customers they're at capacity. The bottom line is that's not true, and something is wrong, so you need to let Paul know right away so that he can call that store and fix the problem. So I think
we don't expect you guys to remember who does everything because we
right.
are, well, we're not a big crew yet, but we are 5 people. But actually, Caitlin and Daria are the contacts for the retail program. They're 100% focused on that right now. Actually, Daria is also the regional coordinator for Northern California, so she's also in touch with the HW programs. But Caitlin, statewide right now, she's the primary retail contact. So in particular, if it is a chain store like a Dunn Edwards or Sherwin-Williams, let us know, because every time we get one of those, there haven't been that many, but anytime we get that kind of information, not only do we contact the specific store, but we also let our corporate contact know to make sure they're funneling the right information down. And we just try and get them from every angle so that we can get it right sooner than later.
Okay. And I think we already talked about the different languages, and Nicole's asking about if any of the outreach materials are going to be in Spanish, and the answer I heard was yes. And then also you're working on Korean and Chinese. Is that correct, Paul? Paul?
Sorry, I had you on mute. Yes, that's correct.
Right. Okay, so yeah, there are materials in Spanish, and are they on the website in Spanish?
No, they're on their way back from the translator. They should be within a week.
Okay, so very soon.
And that would be the general consumer brochure, that sort of trifold that we showed everyone, which is not retail specific. It's general enough for everyone to use. And then the trade painter fact sheet, and then the general information fact sheet for retailers. So we have one specifically for recruiting retailers, one for the trade painter contractor audience, and then one for the general consumer. 3 different pieces that will be translated into those 3 languages.
So retailers, consumers, and I'm sorry, what was the other one?
Trade painters.
Trade painters.
Trade painters, okay. Very good. Okay. And then somebody asked, Elizabeth is asking if we're going to actually post this webinar. She missed a few minutes of it. Bob, are we actually going to post the audio version of the whole webinar? Or I don't think we've done that in the past. I think we just posted the notes in the Q&A.
It's up to you. I have
the
but
we can do it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, I have no objection to that. So Elizabeth will put, when we send out the information with the notes, we'll put the link also to the audio.
We'll actually have a full recording of the entire webinar.
Great.
One file.
You're awesome, Bob. Thank you. And the other question from Laura Robinson is, what do you see as each city's responsibilities? Are we expected to visit these sites regularly for PR and or inspecting?
No, not at all. We don't have that expectation at all. This is an industry program, so you're welcome to visit the sites. And if you have feedback for us, that's great. I ask that you don't go in there as a regulator if you're not. That would be CalRecycle's role and the Coupa's role, because we don't want to make the sites feel like they've now joined a program and they're being watched by many different folks. If we go in there saying, hey, happy you're in this program, thank you for providing the service to our community. We know about PaintCare. If you're missing anything, here's our contact information. That's great. Or if you see a site that's not participating and you have a relationship with them, if you bring them a fact sheet about the program or any information that you think would tell them more so they can be a collection site, that's great. But no, we don't have any expectation. The whole point of this program is to have you have the opportunity to do less, to have less responsibility for paint. So both at your collection location and for having to oversee it. That's our job, to interact with the sites. We have Caitlin and Daria, again, focused on retail. We're looking to hire at least 2 more people for Southern and Central Valley area, and that'll be their role. Year-round, they will be going to every site once, ideally twice, but at least once a year, checking in with them, making sure they have what they need. That's how we'll maintain our relationships with those stores.
Yep. That's great. I would suggest, if I know that Elizabeth Ruan has done this, where they bring their county HHW brochure in case people bring non-program material. Because the store, we don't want illegal dumping. We don't want the store having to deal with a lot of, pesticides or things that they can't handle, because then obviously they may not want to stay in the program. Plus, it helps you get some PR for that facility. If you want to go leave them those brochures, I'm sure the stores would be glad to get those. Okay, so let's see if we have any other questions. This is Belinda Barlow's question. You mentioned setting up PaintCare sites at transfer stations. Do you have a timeline?
We, to the extent that we could, we reached out to those audiences because a lot of them are connected to an HHW program. A year ago when we started reaching out to all the HHW programs. So anyone sort of related to the waste world or somehow related to HHW should know about the program. There may be more transfer stations and landfills that don't have a connection to an HHW program, so we haven't proactively contacted them. But there is no timeline. Anybody can join the program now. It's open to retailers. It's open to HHW programs, transfer stations. We have a couple of transfer stations, or not transfer stations. We have some non-retail stores in the works right now. She's doing a training for a Habitat for Humanity tomorrow. She's got some recycling centers in the works. So we have other types already in the works, but they're just taking a little bit longer, either because they contacted us after the 19th or needed to have the hazardous materials business plan, or for whatever reason. But no, we'll treat everyone the same. I know in the program plan we had indicated that we would prioritize HHWs and then retail would come next. But of course we wanted to have something on day one, and when we saw that the HHW programs were taking longer than we all expected, I wouldn't say we switched, but we definitely wanted to make sure again that we had something in the works, and that's why we kind of put all of our efforts on the ground into bringing the retailers on. So at this point, we've started the program. We feel like we can handle it all at once, so send them our way if they're a non-retail or a non-HHW.
Okay, great. And then Laura Robinson's asking, will this impact our reporting to the state on the Form 303 or our annual report to Cal Recycle? We don't have anybody from Cal Recycle, I believe, on the phone. So I don't know, since Marcia, you might have reported.
Is there any way
before.
of getting, or Cynthia or Emily, are they
I can certainly
registered for the program?
Question.
But are they registered for the program? Is there any way to open it up so they can answer the question? Oh, that's too bad.
Let me see. Maybe they are on, but I'll check.
Well, I can just say that Emily has kind of been reporting that at all the information exchange meetings over the last 4 months. So she's the best person to ask.
Okay. Well, we'll get she's not on the line. So we'll go ahead and get the question asked and answered of her and put it in the notes. So everybody has it. But I'm sure she's answered that before.
Well, and I'll say it's in the works, actually. They are still finalizing how they're going to modify the Form 303s to make it easier for everyone.
Okay.
So they've definitely been soliciting feedback on it, and they're trying to take into consideration this new concept of a producer having all the information, or the stewardship organization having that information. So why do 2 sets of reporting? So I know they're figuring out how to do this for a new program.
Okay, great. Now Chanel Vanderpool has a question. Can commercial businesses drop off paint? It's the same as a residential customer. My understanding is yes, correct? It's just paint. It doesn't matter who brings it in.
Correct. Everybody is paying that fee now, so anyone, doesn't matter what type of generator you're, a household, CSQG, small, large quantity generator, anyone can bring latex paint to a collection site. Of course, we have to respect the volume that the latex paint, that the retail sites can accommodate. Some are saying 5. Kelly Moore, for example, has said publicly they will take up to 20. We have Vistas in Southern California that will take 20 at all of their locations, and they've actually set up 17 sites to be what they're calling super sites, and they'll take up to 100 gallons. So as time goes on and the sites get more comfortable with taking more, we'll start putting specific information for each location. But for now, our general outreach says 5 gallons per customer. You should always call to see if you have more, and I suspect that contractors generally have more. So that's for latex paint, any volume to any place, just making sure that the location can actually accommodate it. Oil-based paint, the way this program is, the way the law for this that allows for this program is written, we can only take oil-based paint from CSQGs, households and CSQGs. So it is up to the location. If somebody indicates they are a business, to have them sign that CESQG waiver exactly like you do at an HHW program. If you don't know they're a business, well, you don't know they're a business. But if they indicate that they are, you have a reason to suspect that they are, or they are a contractor customer, then it's up to the store to just ask them to self-certify that they are CSQG. And so our binder covers all of that. How do you know? What do you ask? What's your responsibility? How much oil-based? How much latex? But yes, anybody can use the program for latex. And then we will, in time, offer what we call direct pickup service, which will be utilized more by contractors. But it has to be a significant volume. It has to make sense for PaintCare to do a direct pickup. We're looking at 150 or 200 gallons. We want them to at least fill a box. Otherwise, we can't run a cost-effective program. So when we're ready to promote that, we will. And that'll be basically treating them like a retail store where they get a box. The only thing is it's just a one-time thing. The box goes away. It's full. But we ask that you don't promote that program right now because we want to let our service providers get this program up and running, get everybody to be sort of comfortable, and then we can start putting the word out about that additional service.
And I think it's interesting to point out that in other parts of the world, they don't understand this differentiation between like commercial, residential. Most of what they do, it's by product type, and it doesn't matter where it ends up or who uses it. In a stewardship program, it's just for them. They've told me they think it's harder to break it out. So paint is paint. If you've got paint, you can bring it back, and you're paying the fee, no matter who's buying it and who's bringing it in. So it's a nice, actually pretty convenient to have this cover everything.
I'd like to make just one little clarification about latex paint versus oil-based paint, and that is that there are lots of products that fall within PaintCare, or a few anyway, that are neither, or people may wonder what they should be, such as lacquers or shellac or some stains and other kind of deck coatings. So I think when we need to be a little careful when we say oil-based paint versus latex paint, because really what we should be saying is latex paint versus hazardous waste. So those other things that would be classified as hazardous waste for some other reason, like flammability, are what we're talking about when we decide what the limits are regarding 27 gallons.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep. Let's see, and can you, this is from Marissa Giulianiello, can you clarify why retail sites are not required to have two boxes, one for latex and one for oil-based?
Was that Marissa that asked that question?
Yeah.
Okay, Marissa, I know you sent me that same question in email last week, so I apologize. We have been overwhelmed with emails and voice messages, so thanks for giving me the opportunity to answer it now. We want to allow all types of stores to participate, and so if we limit it to 2 bins, probably half the sites in the program will not be able to participate. So to the extent that everyone agrees we should make it as convenient as possible, I think we're improving that by allowing a minimum of 1 cubic yard box. There are stores that can't even hold that, and so unfortunately there are going to be stores that can't be in the program that would like to be because they can't even hold a cubic yard box. But there is a cost to picking up a volume smaller than that. In fact, the less we pick up, the more we pay. So we love stores that can hold more than 4 containers, 4, 5, 6, lumberyards that can hold 10, or these Vista stores that have asked for 10 for 17 of their locations, and that's why they can take more volume. But in the end, it's just about being able to have this site in the program. So if they can only hold 1 container, it's not ideal for us, but we want to let them in the program, and that's why they're allowed in the program.
Okay. And then Natalia Jimenez with, she's asking about whether the media outreach is being done in, I'm sorry, Natalie, well, she typed in Natalia is the way it's written. Is the media outreach in Spanish? And I didn't hear that the actual radio or anything like that was in Spanish, that the brochures are being printed in Spanish. Is that right?
That's right. Well, there are no radio ads in Spanish yet, but we're working on what to do with that. It'll be probably wait until the spring before we get the Spanish ads on the radio. The spring campaign will start in March.
Okay, very good. And one person's asking, Laura's asking, are locations required to obtain people's information who bring in paint? I haven't seen that. Is that true? You're not requiring that we document?
No, not required. No, fortunately, the state is not requiring anything like that, so no reason to, put up any barriers to participation. So no, that's not required, with the exception of businesses. If you're a CSQG, then you need to certify that you are. If you're identifying yourself as a business, then you sign the CSQG form, and you're basically just saying, I am a CSQG. I am not a large or a small or large quantity generator.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes it easy again. Nobody wants to be documented, I don't think, just for bringing in paint.
Right.
Big brother.
So we provided those forms to the stores. We've given them all the tools they need, so they're in compliance with the state's rules. We're not going to be collecting those forms, but they're there if PaintCare or Cal Recycle or Coupa were to do an audit.
Okay. Now, Deborah in Alameda asked a question I'm sure a lot of folks have, which is, what can local jurisdictions do if they want to see more retail sites, or if they want to help in recruiting? Would they just tell you these are the sites we'd like to see, and then have you go out?
I think both Paul and Caitlin and Daria have communicated that in different ways, either at HHWIEs or over the listserv, that absolutely, if you know of a location that somehow we don't know about, or you have a relationship with them and you think if you talk to them it might communicate the information better than we have, please do that. We just ask that you use the PaintCare material so that if you are going to be speaking on our behalf, you are giving accurate information. So sure, but yeah, probably the best thing to do is just to send them our way. If you have a contact there specifically, that's even better. Or if you know a location that is underserved and you think this is somewhere that PaintCare needs to be, let us know.
Okay, great. And Rod's asking, who are the contractors providing transportation and recycling services for PaintCare?
At this time, we have Clean Harbors and PSC on contract, and we're working through a contract with Visions.
Okay. And so there's one recycler and two...
I'm sorry, you know what, let me add to that. There's more than that. Thank you. There's more than that. There's also, in some cases, there's going to be counties that are going to either directly provide transportation services to us or subcontract the work out. So, for example, Eco Solutions in San Luis Obispo is also servicing retail stores in that county through our contract with San Luis Obispo. So we basically contracted the county. They had good rates, so we've contracted them for what we call internal transportation. You should all be familiar with that from the contract, but that work is being subcontracted from them to Eco Solutions. Likewise, Mendocino County and San Bernardino County will be doing some transportation for us to some of the collection points in their counties. And we definitely want to bring San Francisco on board to do that because there's already an existing retail infrastructure there. But that's a county by county. It's got to make sense for PaintCare to sort of spread itself out and have yet another service provider rather than using the ones that we already have on board.
So Visions isn't normally a hauler. Is that just for...
No, Visions is a hauler, and I want to be really clear about that because we are only contracting with transporters for the first 2 years of the program. We didn't do any direct contracts with processing facilities. Vision, and so if everyone recalls, we made the commitment that to the extent that we could bring a contractor, that we can negotiate a contract with a transporter that is already servicing a municipal program, we would like to do that because we don't want to disrupt what's going well right now. We want to get a program off the ground, have a smooth transition. So if you have a company that's not Clean Harbors, PSC, Visions, and they're servicing your HW facility, we're still open to the possibility of bringing them on board so that you can keep using the same company. But right now we haven't had any HW programs express interest that use anybody but those three companies. Visions is a transporter in that they service 4 HW programs right now. They also service 17 retail stores. But our primary reason for contracting with them is because of that commitment that we made to those 4 counties, some of which are talking to us that we will try to use your existing service provider so you don't have to have one truck coming in for paint and one truck coming in for everything else. But we've also told everyone 2 years from now that may change and you'll have to deal with 2 different companies. But again, to get the program off the ground, keep things simple, that's the commitment that we've made, and that's why Visions is being considered as a transporter.
Okay. Super. Let's see. It looks like half a question there, Rod, so if you want to finish typing that in, analysis is contractors. Kathy Wall's asking for the HHWF that have a permit only to receive household hazardous waste from the, we are acronym-heavy industry, aren't we? CESQGs would have to get a different permit from the Coupas, since you said that we can accept latex paint from any kind of generator.
That's a little more complicated, so probably best to have a direct conversation about that. But yeah, we're not going to, we do require retailers to service all audiences, meaning residents or businesses, and to take latex and oil-based. We need to keep our outreach simple, and so we can't say these 5 retailers do this and these other 300 do something else. However, with the HW programs, we recognize it's more complicated. Taking paint from a CSQG opens up your doors to all the other CSQG issues. So if you currently do not have a CSQG program, we're not going to require that. Yes, you can collect latex paint from anyone. It's my understanding from DTSC, you can collect latex paint from anyone, even if you are not permitted on your PBR to collect latex paint, but not at your HW facility. So you can do it next door. And Rod, he's been through this. He can probably explain this better than I can. So let me rephrase that. You actually, in order to collect any kind of CSQG waste, you do have to check off that box on your PBR and do whatever else needs to be done in your contingency plan to address CSQGs. However, you can, under a different law right next door to your HW facility or in a different corner of it, collect latex paint under the Health and Safety Code 25217 rules. Probably okay. More than we want to get into right now. You guys are welcome to call me or to call Kevin Sanchez at DTSC to understand that better. But we're not going to obligate you to also start servicing CSQGs if that's not something that you want to do.
Okay. All right, and then Marissa says as a follow-up question, when she was commenting on the having 2 bins, it was more of a regulatory question on the mixing of oil and latex in the same bin.
Okay, my apologies. And actually, your original question to me was, why do the sites only collect 5 gallons? And I think we've talked about that now, which is this just so they don't get overwhelmed, and so they're willing to stay in the program. We say only 5 gallons, but they can take more if they'd like. So the reason for that is the 25217 Health and Safety Code 25217 that allows for oil-based paint to also be taken back through basically any location. That doesn't mean retail, but any type of location allows for those containers or those products to be managed in the same container. So to my understanding, and Allison can chime in, we haven't heard from DTSC or anyone else that we can't do that. It's what we do in Oregon. It's what we have to do to make the program convenient. If your county CUPA feels differently, please let us know right away. I know at your HW facility, Marissa, you're planning on keeping them separate, but it's our understanding that as long as they're considered materials under this program, it's not a problem for them to go in the same container together.
Okay.
They'll get sorted they'll get sorted later by the processors or by the transportation companies.
Okay. All right, and Justin Lewis has asked a question. I think I can answer it and chime in if I didn't get this right, Marjane. But as a local municipality, how can I be included in the group municipal contract? He's from Lancaster. There's like a group of attorneys from several counties that have been talking because they had the same issues with the contract. And I guess many counties have boilerplate language, particularly for indemnification, that they just can't change. And so there was a negotiation that they just decided, because so many counties they get charged back to their division for just asking their attorney to review something when they've been told they can't get language approved, that they decided to save time and energy and money and have just a few of them working directly with Allison. So that's just a group of attorneys that Allison's been working with, and the lead attorneys have been Kathleen Pacheco from Alameda and and Diane McElhern with Sacramento County, and then Marie LaSalle with Santa Barbara. So they're all the attorneys are all talking directly. And as soon as Allison mentioned earlier, they can come up with something that they think is livable, and it sounds like they've made progress in the last few days, thankfully. That contract model will go out to everybody, so everybody will benefit from that. If I said that wrong, Allison, please chime in, but that's my understanding. Okay? So unless somebody has something else to add.
I'll also add that we don't know exactly what group is talking, and we've received some letters via CPSC, so group feedback, and so when I say a group of 30, we're basing it on the number of folks that had signed on to that letter, but we don't know exactly who's a part of that conversation, who's not.
Yeah, there's eight counties attorneys, and they're all feeding back to our entire listserv. So, you know, they're whatever they, but I get very little information. It's mostly, we haven't figured this out yet. So that's all everybody knows. They're just waiting for a new model. Okay, and then Kathy Wall has two questions here. For the household hazardous waste facilities that have a permit only to receive HHW from the CESQGs, we already answered that. Okay, that answer hasn't been typed in yet. Or no, wait a minute. We did have another question from her up here. Okay, that's right. Kathy's got another question. Looks very similar. Actually, it is the exact same question. It was just re-asked twice. Okay, so I'll go to the next one. Does the household hazardous waste facilities need to get a different permit from the CUPA to take latex paint, since the facilities only accept HHW from CESQGs and not from small quantity generators or the LGGs?
This is a good question. I believe that you do. If you're going to collect it at your facility under the Health and Safety Code 25218 rules, then you probably do have to at least be able to accept CSQG waste in order to accept paint from those other businesses. So that's actually a really good question that I have not been asked before. And if Heidi, you could take a notation of that, we can ask DTSC to answer that question.
Okay, Katie. Make sure we get that in the notes there, or Sarah. Great. And then Larry's got another, well, he's basically commenting that you can put oil and latex in the same container. It is just labeled and shipped as oil-based paint. So that was kind of getting to Marissa's question. And then Rod is making the statement that part of the commingled containers answer is that PSC's Gaylor boxes have a DOT exemption for holding flammable waste. This does not affect fire code rules. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for the group answers.
A lot of smart people on the phone.
Exactly.
And that's why it's good to have these calls, because everybody gains information from everybody else. So at this point, we're at 2:23 p.m. We've got about 7 minutes left in this call, and I think we've got just a few more questions coming in. We'll just keep going and answering them. Larry's asking, you can put oil and latex in the same container. Yeah. We've already said that. Let's see. Answer, Larry Sweetster. Can anyone can take latex paint only anywhere without a household hazardous waste permit. A hazmat business plan may be needed. So all these comments will get into the notes. So we'll kind of put it by topic area. But if there's any other questions, you need to type them in now. We've got just a few minutes left. And while we're waiting,
I would also add that I can give you what I think the answer is, but in the end, as an HW facility or an individual program, you should just check with your CUPA and DTSC to see what they want specifically for your region. Because, as you know, you get different answers in different counties or different CUPA jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I see that we're starting to lose a few people, but we were up to 64 people today, and not including the people that were on the call and from our staff for the presenting. So we really want to thank all of you for being on the phone and asking the questions, getting the answers. Again, we've said all along, 90% of this is going to be about communication and trust, that everybody is trying to get to the same end game of having a good program that's going to work statewide in rural and urban areas alike. And we've just started. I want to thank the PaintCare team. I know that we've worked with all of them over the years and in many capacities. They're all really good people that really want to get the job done and have expertise in this area because they've been doing it for much of their career. So I want to thank everybody for being patient. Nothing is perfect out of the gate, and it takes some time. But please give feedback directly to PaintCare. If you see problems, if there is, PR that isn't working, or if it's frustrating people, or whatever it is, just let Paul and Marchene and the team know so that they can fix it. But they can't fix what they don't know. So please, you've got all their contact information on the slide. And Allison, we'll just keep our fingers crossed that municipal contract can get resolved, and everybody's eager to get the program rolling, I know, and all the HHWs as well. So thanks to everyone for your participation, and we look forward to hopefully having more good news, many more locations, and a lot more success with the program. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and sign off. Did you want to say anything else, Marcia-Nay?
I want to thank you and your team as well for hosting this. I think it's always great to have the opportunity to speak as a group because we can't see everyone in person all the time. But I also would like to take this opportunity to thank the PaintCare team because they have worked 24/7 for the last 3-4 months. Literally, we're getting 200-300 phone calls and emails a day, so it doesn't end. And Allison, Paul, Daria, Caitlin, they've all been amazing, and I just feel incredibly fortunate that we put this team together. So I want to acknowledge them publicly that they've been amazing, and I think everybody else should also acknowledge how much work they've done to get this program off the ground. So thanks, team.
Yeah, and especially all those retailers. We weren't sure we were going to have that many, so the good work on that. And I know they're up early because I've been there with them.
That's right. And so thanks to everyone.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, thank you again. We'll take the notes and post them up, and we'll hopefully do it again soon.
And
okay.
Thanks, Bob, for hosting. Yep. Bye.
Yep, thanks, Bob. Bye.